everybody. I hope everyone enjoyed their lunch, was able to connect with colleagues, other schools, and some of our sponsors of today's events while you were out having lunch this afternoon. And I also hope that so far you've got a lot out of this morning's sessions. I know I certainly have in talking to all of you and listening to some of the presentations that have happened so far. So welcome to our session here today. Audience first, engaging parents, students and staff with purpose. You're stuck with myself, Crystal Googe. I am a school engagement manager at Schoolbox. I look after Queensland, the Northern Territory and Western Australia. And I am lucky enough to be joined today by Claire Brosder. She is one of our senior education consultants, so some of you might be familiar with her work if you have had some consulting or an implementation maybe along the way. Our objectives today, we are hoping that you are able, by the end of this session, to identify and analyse stakeholder needs, develop engagement strategies through leveraging the Schoolbox functionality, and translate some of that planning into practice. And we are lucky enough to have a school voice come and present with us today. Schools are complex places with constant demands placed on parents, staff and students. And are we truly setting everyone up for success? One of the challenges is that we often assume that we know what our community needs, or we apply a one-size-fits-all approach to engagement. This can often lead to frustration, missed opportunities, and disengagement. So what is the solution? Having a systemic approach of identifying, analysing, and categorising all individuals or groups of individuals who have an interest in or could be affected either positively or negatively by your school's operations, decisions, or initiatives. For a school, this would include parents, students, staff, and often we forget the subcategories, like your teachers could be different between your administration and your support staff as well. You've also got community partners, board members, local businesses, and so on and so forth. It's about understanding their roles, their level of influence, and their interests. I'm going to hand over to Claire.
Hello everybody, hopefully you can hear me all right. Wonderful to see you all. Thank you, if you were in my session before, thank you for coming back to the same room. I can see we've all decided to sit at the back of the room, which is fine. I won't make you all move forward. But what we're going to do is hopefully get a little bit hands-on. I'm not sure who else was pretty inspired by what Rachel was talking about as part of our keynote. Parent engagement and parent communication is a huge part of the success of a school. We know that when our students are connected to their teachers and teachers are connected to parents, we have better learning outcomes because we've built that trust, we've built that relationship. Schoolbox is a phenomenal product for many reasons. One of the challenges we often face in any school, and you know, with some of our Schoolbox schools, it's around making sure our communication is really effective. There are so many different audience options for those who are aware of the global audiences and using groups and applying permissions. And it's often, especially what I see in my consulting, we get lost in that. We get lost in the settings. We get lost in setting up these channels of communication. And sometimes we forget to take a step back and ask ourselves why. There's a great strategy that I use, and I'll talk about that strategy first, and we're going to switch to this one. And that first strategy is about mapping all of your communication groups. List them all out. Decide who's responsible for that group, who's meant to be part of that group, and then you could decide, how we're going to get our users into that. But what I really want to challenge us to do today is to take a step back. And before we start thinking about the nitty-gritty of should I use a global audience, should I enable moderation, who should I give news permission to, let's take a step back and first think about what information do we really need to capture and what information do we really need to communicate out to our parents. We often make assumptions, which is, I recently became a parent, and before that I had no idea what kind of information parents would need, and it's quite different to what I initially kind of thought and anticipated. So what we're going to do now is we're going to get hands-on. You might have seen me stalking around, making sure everyone had notepads. We're going to do a bit of a stakeholder mapping activity. You should all have a Sofitel notepad on your desk. Can I just ask that you rip off a piece of paper? Thank you, Sofitel. This can be a souvenir. You can take it back to your colleagues, to your leadership team. Amazing. You just need one piece of paper. What we're going to do is fold that piece of paper into 3 even columns. So I'm just going to put the mic down. I'm sure you can do that, but I will demonstrate it for you. So just fold in your piece of paper. Oh, Lectin. Didn't think of that. You can go lengthways or that way. Doesn't really matter. We're going to fold it into 3 columns. So hopefully your piece of paper looks like this. Find a pen from the table or from the bottom of your bag and just draw some columns like that. I feel like I'm teaching again. This is great. At the top of the first column, I would like you to write stakeholder. At the top of the second column, I'd like you to write need to know. And the third column, I'll ask you to write channel. Usually when I do this activity, there's a 4th column, and I'll explain that at the end. All right, can everyone hold up their piece of paper? Show me that they're ready. Amazing. Fantastic. All right, what we're going to do is first map out our stakeholders. As Crystal was alluding to before, there's lots of different groups within our school and community members. Let's just write 2 for now, because we could end up writing 20. The biggest one that I think we want to kind of discuss today is parents. So if you write parent as your stakeholder 1 at the top, that would be amazing. And if there's another stakeholder group that you're particularly concerned about with engagement, maybe our senior school students aren't, engaging with the platform or communication enough, they seem to be missing, you can write them down. In the next column, next to your parent, stakeholder, I want you to take a moment or a minute and consider what is the need to know information for a parent in your school. And I'll give you a minute to do that, and then we're going to quickly chat about it. So 1 minute, write down a few dot points. What is need to know information?
I love how everyone is so diligently working. This is an amazing class. I give you all a gold star.
This is my favourite group. Badges for everyone.
When we're talking about parents too, not necessarily for this particular activity, but when you might take this activity back to your school, don't forget your subgroups. Parents aren't always just one big group of parents. You might have junior school parents different to middle school parents, different to senior school parents, and do those needs change over time? And do you need to adapt?
All right, that's a minute. I got accused of doing a very, very short minute in my last session, so we might stop there. Could I just, we didn't plan for this, but I feel like it's good. Does anyone want to share one piece of their need to know information and just want to shout it out? I'll call on names.
I've said pastoral care or wellbeing record.
Yeah, pastoral care, great one.
Love it.
Cancellation closures.
Very
Excellent.
much need to know.
Events.
Thank you. Events, love it. Perfect. Student achievement, progression. Amazing. When I've done this activity before, I've noticed a few things. First of all, we could have a whole team, different staff members sitting around a table doing this activity, different leaders. What I often find is that everyone has a slightly different take on what is need-to-know information. So as a school, that's your number one priority. Get your decision makers together, decide what is, as a consensus, need-to-know information, because as we start to splinter off, that's where we start to create that noise of communication. So that's number one. The next column on our on our activity is the channel. And that's considering right now in your school, for that need to know information, what channels do you use to get that out? So I'll give you another minute to list those down. All right. This is another fun activity to do with your leadership team when you do this, because as you start to list out those channels, you start to go, ooh, that's a lot. What I then challenge you to do as a team is you sit together and you put yourself in the position of a parent. A parent would need to access all of those channels to get to that need to know information. Ideally, what we want to do is create really seamless, streamlined communication strategies within our school. There's sometimes a fourth column I put on this activity, and I didn't do it today, and that is something I was taught by my predecessor, which is in schools there's different forms of communication, but if we simplify it all, it comes down to need to know and nice to know. So if it's not need to know information, it's nice to know, where can we store that within the system? Should it go out in a news post? Should I, put it on a muted group? Is there a way that I can structure my communication to make it really clear to parents what's nice to know and need to know? So if you do take this activity back, draw that fourth column on and write nice to know. What you'll start to do once you do this for every stakeholder group is you'll have a very big document, and you use that and you revisit it every year, and you try and make it as simple as possible so that you can hand that on to the next person in your school and it makes sense. One of the challenges we face is around how do we actually get this information. We make assumptions. We make assumptions about what information parents need to know and what's nice to know. We make assumptions about what channels we're actually using. So there's there's another step to this where we need to collect data and we need to think really strategically, but this stakeholder mapping activity forms the basis of that.
Ooh, clicker.
Is this the clicker?
Yeah.
Oh, it changed.
Awesome.
So why is this so important? It's not just important, it's a non-negotiable. First of all, it reveals the full landscape. It helps us take a step back, look at everything, go, yep, cool, I know what to do now. It helps us uncover needs and priorities, helps us be more targeted and effective in our communication. And the biggest one for me, coming from my new parent hat and being an old teacher, is building that trust and partnership and relationship. We really need to build that with our parents. And by having really seamless communication can help with that. So this is what yours might look like by the end. Questions you might ask yourself: are all my community groups represented here as stakeholders? Why do we think this? How do I know? Why do I think they need to know that information? Where's that coming from? And then channels, is it clear for my stakeholders to know which channel they need to use? All right. I'm going to now talk about this, and then I'm going to invite Isaac onto the stage. Ideally, what we're trying to do is think about how we can be strategic in planning for our parent engagement. There's a big difference between planning and actually implementing, and that's why we've got the amazing Isaac here to give us some real-world examples of how this can translate into practice. So can we please give Isaac a huge, warm round of applause.
I think we can. Thank you so much for having me. Click. Hey, awesome. It's really lovely to be here and to see you all, and I really enjoy these events because it is all about sharing. So you may listen to what I've got to say and think, that won't work at our school, or and I won't be offended by that at all. It's all about learning from each other. And what I also would say as a disclaimer is that we have not got Schoolbox sorted. We're not done. It's not complete. We are on a journey, and we are constantly thinking about how we can improve our parent, student, and staff experience with Schoolbox. So there's my disclaimer at the beginning. I'm from the Knox School. We're in Melbourne in the eastern suburbs, and we're a small independent school. We've got about 850 students from the ELC all the way up to year 12. And the way that we use Schoolbox looks quite different on each campus. We're one campus, but it looks quite different in each sub-school. And when we were rolling out Schoolbox, the implementation and how we addressed that with our staff also looked really different. So a bit about me, I'm actually a primary school teacher, and I was working in the junior school to support the team rolling out Schoolbox. About 4 years we've had it fully up and running in our school. We must have been talking for another year because I've got a nice 5-year badge, which is very exciting. Yeah. And so now I'm in a role this year across the school. So now I'm looking at the senior school as well and getting into that space. So I'm a primary school teacher, but now I'm across the school. And so some of the things that you'll hear me talk about today are really kind of things I've discovered going into the senior school context. And like I say, we're constantly evolving and thinking about Schoolbox. So, first of all, what we did this year, and I'm going to cover a range of topics. Some of it's about audience, some of it's about kind of general look and feel of Schoolbox, and some of it is specific to our student and parent and staff experience. So I'll just talk about a range of things, and then if you've got questions, I'm happy to chat about anything. We found ourselves in a position at TKS that we'd been using Schoolbox. We call it the Nest. Our school logo is a falcon, so it's like the falcon's nest. So the Nest had been up and running for a few years, and we fell into kind of that complacency where people knew how to use it, they knew how to get around it, they knew kind of what to do, but we haven't been on a process of improving it. So this year we've done a real review and a real look at the Nest. We've engaged with staff and students and parents to figure out and to try and get to the bottom of what are the issues, because there are always going to be problems and things we can improve. So one of the things was just the kind of clunkiness of this homepage. This is an example of the kind of visual identity that we had. Lots of images, lots of colour, which looks amazing, but we've moved now into a more streamlined, branded approach where we've kind of reduced the visual noise and hopefully, we've been on a bit of a brand journey as well. Hopefully it reflects our brand and it's a bit more streamlined. The other thing that we've done in this that you can see here is that we've taken the pages and the links and separated them out. So for example, on the old dashboard, some of these are actually just links to external sites. Some of them are internal Schoolbox pages that are managed by staff. So we've separated those out now so that if it's a link, like just going to the yard duty roster or the school website, it just sits in the side in this is a lot smaller. And if it's a page with information that's regularly updated, that is in the big dark blue. Another journey that we have been on is looking at that targeted, like you guys were saying, that targeted information for parents. Previously, we had hubs, and the hub was a collection of year levels. So we may have had a year, I think it was year 7 to 9 hub, and then a year 10 to 12 hub, for example. And those hubs used to have all of the parents and all of the students in them, which sounds great because you've got a one-stop shop for communication. But the downside of that is, of course, a news item like, there's a pair of black shoes outside the gym, please come and grab them if they're yours, was going to all of our parents. And we had parents telling us, I'm deleting the app, I'm turning off email notifications, I'm not interested because you're bombarding us with information. And then, of course, we had the flip side of that where some parents were feeling like they were missing out and not getting enough key information. So I'm really open to your thoughts as well later, because there may be other ways of doing this with global audiences and moderation, but what the journey that we've been on this year is actually just going, separating each of the parent and student bodies into groups and having a designated administrator for that page. So if we're doing, say, my example is always a NAPLAN post. We want the Year 7 parents and the Year 9 parents to receive this information about NAPLAN. Previously, that would have gone on each hub and it would have been hundreds of people getting these notifications. Now we just target the specific year level of parent or student that we want to see the information. And this was a bit of a new approach, and something that was new for staff and for parents, but it's helped massively target and streamline. Once we've trained and educated the staff on how to actually, did the title of the group and how to post to that place, it has really improved our communication. Now we make sure that when we're looking at the statistics on a piece of news, that it's only the people that need to see that news have received it. It's also been, I've just got one more thing. I've put this in the wrong order, I apologise, but here is kind of my approach of breaking that down and making it visible and transparent for staff. So this was our way of saying, I know that you can't read it from where you're sitting, but here is our structure of communication pages. Here is this member of staff who's responsible for administering that page as the group admin. Who is the audience for that page? Who gets notified when the news goes up there? And then a link to the page. And this has been another game changer, because rather than having global audiences being used, and we're a small school, it was just me, everything was coming to me to approve and moderate, and we were having news going in all of the wrong places. Now we make sure that the correct staff member has the admin permissions for that group, and they manage that. So for example, those parent pages in the senior school, the group admin for those is the head of students and the head of academics for those year levels. Or the head of senior school has oversight on all of them. So there are people who can manage those pages. And if the staff member now comes to me and says, I don't have access to the page I need to post, I've got other people who can actually support and add that person into the group and make sure that they've got right access to the page. So we've gone down away from the moderation route and actually just setting up these groups. And my hope is that really now it's a set and forget. That if we get a new staff member, it's up to that page manager, that admin, to add them in and to have that communication and dialogue. And we also have a lot of our executive assistant team actually managing this stuff as well. So this has been, something that we've put in place to improve that. Going back a step now, because I put this in the wrong order. Another way that we're communicating to our parents is through the Learning Moments feature, which I'm sure you're familiar with and you're probably using. This is something that we really found after COVID, that parents were so used to looking over their child's shoulder and seeing what their children were doing, especially junior parents that were with their students a lot as they were working. And when they came back to school, the parents actually felt a bit of grief, a bit of a disconnect with their children and their learning. So we really jumped on board the Learning Moments module. And what we did was we co-constructed the expectations with staff. So we stepped back and had a conversation with junior school teachers about how often do you think we should be posting, what's manageable, what would that look like, and we came to an agreement as a junior school team that if every classroom teacher posts a maths, humanities, science and English a term, plus we have our specialists doing a post a term for the students, each child will have 8 learning moments a term, easily, if we work as a team. And that builds a lovely picture for the parents about their learning. And we don't expect that it's a finished product. As you can see from the examples, it is not a perfect finished project that goes up. It might just be a picture. It might be really easy for a specialist staff to do a whole class picture and post that, and it takes 2 seconds. So really looking at our learning moments and co-constructing that with staff has been a lovely way of including our parents in the journey and making sure we all know that the thing that the parents want is to see their children's learning. That's what they care most about. So using Schoolbox to do that has been fantastic. We also get some great engagement. We get parents commenting and liking things. and giving little comments and feedback, which is lovely. So that's something we're proud of too. All right. Another feature of Schoolbox that we've utilised is this having the dashboard on the home page look slightly different for each user. Again, I'm sure this is something that you're doing, but for the junior school students, we use iPads a lot, and so they just go on and they've got this, one of the functions in the admin settings is you can choose this dashboard. It's super easy for little kids. They just log onto their iPad and they've basically got a quadrant of 4 buttons. That's all they can really see. And they can go and post their own learning moment there with the Share Learning button. It keeps it really simple and straightforward. It's compatible with the iPads. It works well. Our senior students have a little bit more information. Obviously, they've got their assessments and their due dates down the side there. They've got their timetable and they've got their news happening. And with some student feedback, we've redesigned this set of tiles here just to make it a bit more streamlined and user-friendly. Again, these are all just Canva templates that we share. And I've got a group of students who are actually come to me and they want to redesign them, so they're furiously working away on that. So we'll see how that looks and we'll see if it gets approved. But they're into it and they want to kind of have that voice and customization. I showed you this at the very beginning, but this is our staff dashboard. And as I said, we split the pages and the links. And what I'll just mention to this is that part of that communication page structure that I showed you was these pages. So it's very clear when you go on the page, we've got the element, the page element, called Page Managers. And so when you click on that page, you can see the member of staff who's responsible for that page. And again, that means it's not just on me to make sure that the entire Schoolbox is up to date, but if you're going to the psychologist page, you can see there who to contact, who's responsible for that page, so it's really clear. So going through that process of discussion with staff, it became really clear, that we had some gaps. We needed to add a few pages in, that we needed to actually remove some that were redundant, that we could reduce the number of pages by grouping them together. So for example, the professional learning page, we kind of grabbed a whole lot of different pages about AI and about lots of different teaching and learning related things and created a menu within the professional learning page. So there's lots of kind of ways we've tried to streamline and structure that. And along the right-hand side, we've got the buttons that are always there for the community for each sub-school. So that takes you to the page where all of the junior parents and students are, all of the senior parents and students and so on. Pretty straightforward. One of the things that we are grappling with is the number of different external apps and providers and products that we have for parents. And we're looking at how we can try and streamline this as much as we can. So as you can see, we've got lots of external things like Operoo and the Canteen and Pixivity and PTO. And so we've just tried to make the parent dashboard as simple as possible for parents to navigate and to find information about how they can get to those platforms. The other thing, which I don't have a picture of, is just guides about how to download the app and how to log in and change your password and how to contact IT and those kind of quick fixes for parents. In the junior school specifically, our parent pages are a real source of pride for our teachers, and they have a lot of autonomy. The banner, that's non-negotiable, that's set, but the rest of the page is really up to the teachers to customise and to provide the information that they need to provide for their families. So we have got kind of a co-constructed, again, expectation that junior school teachers post once a week with updates for parents, so usually on a Monday with kind of a week ahead. But you can see there that teachers go above and beyond. They create little newsletter-style Canva templates. They might upload login information for home learning and for key apps. They really kind of take ownership of those pages. And like I said before, the staff at each year level have group admin of their page, so they're completely responsible for their page. Yep, I'll keep going. In the senior school, it's, again, we've got a template, we've got a structure, but the staff have autonomy and ownership over their pages too, as long as it conforms with our expectations in terms of having learning intentions and success criteria and linking to the right things. Teachers have a lot of autonomy, and people do it in different ways. Some people use text boxes, some people use the news, so people have a lot of flexibility there. On our staff pages, this is something that we, again, are having lots of conversations about. How do we balance Outlook and Teams communication with communicating on the Nest or on Schoolbox? And to be honest with you, we still rely heavily on Outlook and Teams for most of our internal communication. But the staff pages do have a purpose, and we have, for example, our head of junior school. Part of his ritual, his love in life, is to do his weekly post on the staff page. And he spends the week crafting it, he writes it on the weekends, he puts information and links and reading in there, he gives key updates and information, and he posts every Monday morning, and he expects staff to read it. So that works for him, and he uses the junior school staff page to do that. So there's kind of a list of his posts, so you can keep up with what's going on. The other main feature of the staff pages, and we also have a senior school staff page, which is very similar, is we've got links to our SharePoint folder, so we can just go straight to the planning folder of the relevant year level. And lots of key links here. So documents that the staff frequently need to use in the junior school, they go straight to the staff page, they go to the links, and they know that it's going to be there. Oh, who's on community time this week? You just go straight there and click it. So the staff pages have been useful in that regard. There's the senior school one. It's very similar, just a different set of tiles and links. All right, I think I'm nearly at the end, but I just wanted to, again, draw your attention to the fact that we're on a journey and we're constantly learning. So moving forward, some of the things that we're thinking about are actually balancing out that the feedback that we get from parents, what's too much communication and what's not enough communication, and trying to find our way with that and constantly having that dialogue with our parents in our community. We're looking as well at how we can improve the app experience, and I'm really keen to learn more over the next day and a half about how we can do that. We're currently using Digistorm, and that kind of web app development is something that we're really interested in improving. Like all of you, when new features come on board, we're really keen to grasp it and to learn about how they work. And we, are always redesigning, as you can see, our pages, our dashboards, our buttons, and our structures there. And the main thing as well, the last thing, is custom notifications and training staff and parents and actually highlighting to them how much functionality and how much personalisation they can have in their custom notification settings. People don't have to just put up with getting emails that they don't want to get or getting an alert every time a text box is updated. We can customize all of that to the individual level. So I really want to work on training staff and parents about that. So anyway, that was a little insight into the Knox School and our use of Schoolbox, and I'm really happy to chat and would love to learn more from you all. So thanks for having me.
Isaac, thank you so much. May I ask you for a moment to stay up on the stage, because I thought this might be a really good opportunity, given all the amazing insights that you have just shared on your journey so far, where you started, the changes that you've made. I thought I'd throw to the audience to have the opportunity to throw some questions. If you have a question for Isaac, please raise your hand.
G'day mate, how you going?
Hey.
Your parent pages for years 7, 8, 9, 10, things like that, I'm guessing that those news feeds are tailored, so when a news item is created, the audience is already set to those parents. Would that be correct?
That's right, yeah.
Are you enrolling those parents through your SIS integration? So when a parent comes in and a SIS does an update into Schoolbox and it sees that, okay, that parent has a year 7 student, they automatically get enrolled onto that page?
We've done it through the admin settings inside Schoolbox. So I can't remember the exact name of the function, but you can actually, the UPS,
Yeah,
the
Nailed it.
user provisioning service, you can set up those groups. So yeah, you can just literally put in the target audience for parents and students, and it just does it for you. Yeah, and you can do a dry run and see, have I got the right people in there, and then you can do a full UPS rollout.
There's an excellent token you should all be aware of in the UPS, student year level. So when you're creating your parent rules and creating read group access, look out for that student year level. Don't put year level because parents don't get assigned a year level, but that's how we create that connection between a parent who's got a child in year 9 and that year 9 page. Great question. I'm closer. Oh, thank you. Sorry.
Hi, I'm keen to understand the traffic that you get on your class pages from your parents. One of the things that we've looked at as one of our evolutions this year is actually removing the page, but keeping the group, so the communication can still go out, the news and things like that, but the actual landing page doesn't exist because we weren't finding a lot of traffic in those pages, but it was actually quite a bit of maintenance for teachers. So I was interested to know if you have anything similar.
We actually use the parent pages for kind of a hub. Like, I don't have the instance live here to show you, but for example, our Year 9 parent page actually has a lot of information about camp and resources and uploads specific to that year level. So it's almost like the old kind of blogs that teachers used to run. So we do find everyone's different. Some teachers don't really use it that way, but we do find that having the page actually really helps keep all of the information in one place. And if there's information year upon year that remains for a particular year level, it helps to have that link sitting in there. So it's just the way we ended up because we wanted to really target our information, but I'm sure there are other ways of doing it for sure. Yeah.
Another question over here.
Hi, Isaac.
Hi, Namju.
Was there a reason you didn't segment audiences for primary? Is that because you didn't have as much information that was targeted by your group?
We actually, because junior school teachers are generally superior, we were already perfect. No, that's such a good question, and I probably didn't make it clear enough that actually, since we rolled out Schoolbox several years ago, we actually already had that junior school structure. So we already had the prep to 6 pages sitting there that was co-shared. At our school, there are 2 teachers per year level, and they already worked together to manage those pages. It was when I came into this role cross-campus and saw how the senior school was operating that I thought we could make some tweaks just to improve that targeting, because the senior school had their 2 big hubs rather than year-level pages. So we basically just replicated what we did in the junior school in the senior school. But the difference is, though, we don't have student pages in the junior school because the students really are not using Schoolbox as much as the senior students are. And our student numbers double in the senior school, so there are 4 classes per year level. So to have, say, a year 7 student page, for example, means that the 4 classes of year 7s can all be in one place and access the same information. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
Thanks, Isaac. I've got a question here.
Hi, one of our desires is to shift to Schoolbox so that we stop using all sorts of other things. But I'm worrying about, as you shift to a new method of communication, do you find you have to replicate that information in multiple places, and then therefore is it actually achieving the goal of streamlining? I'm not sure that's a particularly coherent question. Do you get what I mean?
My only question to you is, do you mean with parents or internally in the school?
Specifically parents,
Yeah.
but I can see the same problem happening in school. I didn't see that because I didn't go to Schoolbox. It used to be on such and such.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's kind of a crucial point that you reach where you have to just commit and stop double handling. But where you get to, and every school is different, and every rollout is different, and every parent group and staff group are different. So it's hard to know exactly when that is. But that's kind of why we didn't end up fully committing to the staff communication, because we actually tried that. We kind of used the staff groups to post things, but we kind of found it a bit clunky, and we found it hard. If you're just wanting to let just the year 3, 4, 5, and 6 teachers know something that doesn't affect, then you've got to create a group and have that kind of management of all those different groups and permissions. So basically, we just fell back to Outlook because it was a lot easier. But with our external parent communication and communication to students, that is all done through Schoolbox, and it's been really successful because when we moved to Schoolbox, it was just moving from one provider to another. So one provider finished and we picked up Schoolbox, and people just had to adopt, basically. We did have a few like longer transitions with things like kind of formal letters that would go out about specific events, or certain departments. The music and sport department were relying on email a lot with their parent groups. So there were some areas of the school that took a bit longer to adopt to Schoolbox, but once we've got the groups set up, it worked. Can I just add one more thing, because I'm on a roll now? The other thing that we found was that again, you can see there's a sport tab there. So we actually found that certain areas of the school needed a different form of communication. And custom groups were really important in that. So we could go to the sport page, and the head of sport there has all of the communication about fixtures and teams and so on, and it sits on that page. So that's, again, we're constantly evolving and going, all right, that's not working, we need to add this. Yeah.
You go first, Jackie.
Hi, I'm quite curious how, it sounds like you have a lot of information that's going out to parents. My first question is, whenever you post something, do they get notification saying that, hey, something's up? And my second question is, do you also do newsletters where you share what's happening across the school or in a week, and what does that kind of look like? I mean,
Yeah.
you can't show, but
Again, we are not perfect, so don't we're not the beacon of communication light at the Knox School, but what we do is we have a lot of it going through that year level parent pages, the day-to-day communication. This event is coming up, please remember this is happening in your child's year level. And then we have what's called the Knox Mail, which is our once a week formal Friday communication that goes out, and that's kind of like more of a high level articles from the executive team, strategic updates, and kind of highlights from students and achievements across the school. So that's to complement the communication that happens in Schoolbox. And there's many different schools of thought. Some people just want Schoolbox updates, and they never read the Knox Mail. Some people rely heavily on the Knox Mail because that's what they're used to, and for several years that's been in place as that kind of weekly Friday communication. So for now we're doing both, and they have a slightly different purpose, but I think that it's definitely something that we can look at. Yeah, and in terms of notifications, it's very customizable. So if you want your parents to be forced to have a notification, you can do a priority news and it pushes out. But otherwise, it's up to the parents to receive notifications if and when they want, or their weekly digests if and when they want.
How do you get your junior school kids to log in?
We use the QR. The iPads have a QR reader, and it just logs them straight in. Yeah.
Another question? Lots of questions?
Yeah, I learned that for that to work on the class pages, I learnt last week that the class, when you're setting it up, has to be assigned a year level. Otherwise, the QR code reader doesn't necessarily know that it's a junior class, so we just make sure you've got the year level assigned to it.
Hello.
Hi.
You've mentioned events. What do you do to get parents to provide consents to events? Are you digitally doing it? Or you provide PDFs? How do you address that?
We are using Operu, which we've just found out is closing in January.
So Paperly would be an option for that.
Yeah, it's one of my things to learn more about in the next couple of days.
Any other questions?
I may have missed you saying it, but I know you have your groups, your year 7, year 8, year 9. For junior school, do you require your teachers to prepare class pages where they communicate to parents through news, or is it through the grade, the year level page or group that they communicate through?
In the junior school, our external parent communication is done on the parent page that you can see, like this is the senior school version. So we have our 2 classroom teachers working together. They might take turns at posting each week. They share that page. And so that goes to, say, all year 5 parents, so across both classes. in terms of the class pages, the Year 5 teachers would communicate with their Year 5 students on the class page, not on a communication page. And so the way we've done it in the junior school is that I've actually just set up all of those pages for staff because it was a smaller team and it was consistently done that way and it saved staff that time. Whereas in the senior school, the teachers actually construct that page themselves. They upload their own content and banners and everything to their own pages. But yeah, it's one of the kind of things we had to consider as we moved to Schoolbox in the junior school was that some teachers actually really wanted their own voice for their own class of parents. And so it was a bit of a shift in their thinking to actually share that page and have that consistent communication with their colleague and actually share that. So, but that was something that we've moved past and it's working really well.
Thank you so much, Isaac.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Can I have everyone join me into giving Isaac a round of applause? And as a thank you. I hope you've all got something out of today's session.
Do we not have those?
Oh, sorry, I have to wait that.
That's all right.
Just a refresh on Isaac's presentation in fast forward. One more. Okay. I want to thank you all for joining us in today's session and especially thanking Isaac for giving up his time in preparation, in preparing his presentation today and answering everybody's questions. I know it's always one of the big feedbacks that I get from Meetup and talking to customers is that engaging with other schools and being able to ask questions about what they're doing and how they do it and the decisions that happened behind that process. I hope we've given you a little bit of an insight into communication, but I want to keep the conversation going. Your school engagement manager is a vital piece of the puzzle in and around, these questions that you're asking of Isaac. When you don't have an Isaac to reach out to, please reach out to your school engagement manager, and they can help support you in connecting you with other schools, answering your questions, linking you to resources, things like in Help. We also have our instance sharing space. We have regional pages that you can connect with each other on as well. So I just want you to keep those conversations going. And the engagement team, the education consultants and the engagement team are going to be out at the support, what's the desk called? Strategy Studio. Sorry, I had a mind blank then. That can answer all of your questions as well. Thank you, Claire, for joining us, and thank you from all of the Schoolbox staff. You've got a few minutes between the next presentation, so if you need to change rooms, go to the bathroom, get a quick drink of water, you've got about 10 minutes till the next presentation starts. Thank you.